Welcome. Today's lesson is on safflower judging. By and large, safflower in Northern California is grown for oil, and it's called oleic sunflower. Another variety is called confectionery safflower, and that's primarily grown for feeding animals and livestock and those types of things. So today we're going to be judging oleic sunflower. Here's just a real quick overview of the four classes we're going to look at today. You'll notice different colors are in each one of them because safflower is white. Also, there is some off color that I'll get to in a minute and why that's important. But in safflower judging, we're really looking for lustrous, bright, plump seeds that really indicate some seed vigor and also some uniformity. We're going to take a look at samples number 1 and 2. If we first of all look at sample number 1, you'll notice primarily there's some different colors, some different shades, and it looks like primarily some problems or some problems with some broken seeds or some chaff, that sort of thing. If we look at number 2, there are some other seeds in sample number 2, and it's pretty much filled with some. It's fairly obvious to see. In sample number 3, it's pretty clear that there's a different kind of seed in there. It looks like sunflower, common sunflower, which is pretty typical for safflower. And then in 4, it looks pretty uniform in its color and its shape. And we'll be talking a little bit about what is the difference between those 2 or 3 different seeds in there. And we'll find out in just a second. So let's go ahead and judge it and start looking at some of the terms. If you take a look primarily at sample number 4 here, one of the things you're going to notice in this class is it's very bright. It's very plump. The seeds obviously have a lot of oil that's been stored up, and they're a very bright, very plump type of seed. It shows that you have a lot of seed vigor. It's going to compete well against some of the other weeds as well as other volunteer plants in the field. As we get closer, you'll notice that there's kind of a yellow tinge to some of those seeds, so it has a bit of an off color. Primarily because several years ago, safflower breeders were trying to get more and more oil out of the seed, and by doing that, by having less and less hull. So some of the older varieties are still around, and they're kind of yellow because of their very thick hull. And if you take a look at some of these, like for instance, I'm going to zoom in on one of them here, which is this one right here. You can see that some of the hull is missing, or it's very, very thin, so you can actually see the seed and you can see the oil coming through it. Like here's another one right here. So some of the newer varieties are going to be a little bit more thin in their hull. So this is a uniform, bright, lustrous seed that's extremely plump. I like this seed a lot, primarily because of its high quality. So let's move on to the second. This is sample number 4. If we look at the next one, this is going to be sample number 1. Sample number 1 is also bright and lustrous, but not very intact. It has some mechanical damage. It has chaff in it. It's not probably going to have quite the quality that I'd like to see, like we did in number 4. This is going to germinate well once we clean it up and take it back to the cleaner, but it's going to be some dockage fees that's going to be assessed against this one. So sample number 1, it is uniform, it's bright, but there's chaff and there's some dirty elements within it. Now if we look at sample number 3, we can see that there are some other elements, some other weed seeds. Those are common sunflower. We have an off color, and some of these are kind of misshapen as well. So sample number 3, common sunflower is the weed, some more off color, and it's probably just not going to be quite as desirous as number 4 was today. And lastly, we're going to be looking at sample number 2. Sample number 2, if we take a good hard look at it, we notice there were some problems right away. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on it a little bit, and we have these seeds right here. Those are field bindweed. They're a noxious weed, and definitely going to be a bit of a problem. But we also have some white wheat involved in it as well, so that is an additional crop seed in that. So that's going to knock it down quite a couple of notches, because it has noxious weed as well as also other crops in it. So that's a deduction of about 40 points. So 40% is coming off. And so this one is not an ideal seed sample either. So let's go ahead and turn off the magnifying lens, and let's get into the judging part of it. So let's take a look at some sample reasons. All right, I'm going to be placing this group of sunflower in the order of 4, 1, 3, and 2. In sample number 4, I like this sample a lot because of its uniformity, its brightness, its plumpness. It's going to have a high amount of seed vigor as well as a good germ rate. This is the kind of seed that we're looking for in today's marketplace. Would like to also seed number 1, sample number 2 is in second place. Sample number 2 is not as clean, is not as bright. It's going to have to taken back to the cleaner and, of course, assess a dockage fee to get it cleaned up and make it look. But look at the cracked holes in it and some of the chaff and some of the seed as well. Then we get to sample number 3. Sample number 3 I put in third place because it has, even though it is bright, it's a lustrous seed, it's uniform, it has common sunflower seed in it. And because of that, that's another crop, it's going to be a deduction of about 15 points. It's just not as bright and lustrous as we would like to see it. And then in last place, in the bottom of our class, is sample number 2. It has noxious weed, that being field bindweed, as well as another crop, that being white wheat. And because of that, it's going to cause a bit of a problem in the soil, and it's going to be kind of propagating some noxious weed seeds, and that's why I've got to put it in fourth place. Now, one of the things that I hope that as you go through your judging season and you take a look at it, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but the seeds you plant. Those are some good words to live by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I hope this particular video has helped you get a little bit better at judging safflower. Thanks, and we'll see you at the next contest.